It started with something simple, ordinary, one of those moments that should have meant nothing. It was a Saturday morning in late spring. The sun had finally shown up after weeks of gray skies and drizzle, and I remember thinking how nice it felt to have a clear sky overhead. Leslie was in the bedroom, putting on mascara and humming something from the radio. I was by the front door, wrestling with a pile of jackets we'd lazily stacked on the coat rack, the usual post-winter clutter. I grabbed what I thought was mine, a dark blue windbreaker I'd worn to the grocery store the day before. I didn't realize until we got to the cafe that I had the wrong one. It was similar, same style, same brand, but the lining felt different, a bit smoother. The sleeves were longer. Still, I didn't think much of it at first. I figured maybe I was losing weight, or maybe it had stretched out. We were already seated when I reached into the pocket for my phone. Instead, my hand closed around paper. Not a receipt. Something thicker. Fabric. A napkin. My first thought was that it was trash. I almost crumpled it and tossed it into the little trash bin under the table. But then I caught the handwriting. A flourish in the D. Curvy, clean script, like someone who dots their I's with little circles. Can't stop thinking about last night. Call me. Red Heart, D. Below it was a phone number. No name, just the initial. A heart drawn neatly like it had meaning. The napkin was printed with the name of a bar, the Crimson Door, a place Leslie and I had only been to once, but I remembered it because it was the kind of place she liked. Dim lighting, expensive cocktails, too much cologne in the air. I stared at it, heartbeat rising. Took me a moment to connect the dots. The wrong jacket, the bar, the handwriting, but most of all, the fact that it wasn't a generic napkin. It had a logo on it, one that only came from one place. And that heart. Not just a playful scribble, but a mark meant for someone specific. I didn't say anything right away. I just slid the napkin back into my pocket. Leslie was across from me, sipping her latte and scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled. "You okay?" I nodded. Lied. "Yeah, just thinking." She didn't press. We made it through brunch like any other Saturday, except my stomach churned through every bite. My mind kept circling the same thoughts. Whose jacket was this really? How did it end up on our rack? And why did the napkin feel like a puzzle piece I wasn't supposed to find? When we got home, I waited until she went upstairs to fold laundry. Then I placed the napkin carefully on the kitchen table. No dramatic setup. Just folded it neatly, message facing up, and sat down with a cup of coffee like I had all the time in the world. She came down a few minutes later and froze. I'll never forget that moment. The way her hand hesitated on the banister. The flicker in her eyes, recognition, then panic, then something else entirely. She stared at the napkin for less than 2 seconds before her expression hardened. "What's that supposed to be?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I waited, let the silence stretch a little too long. "I found it in the jacket," I said finally. "What jacket?" "The one I wore this morning. From the hallway." She stepped closer, arms crossed. "That's not your jacket." "Apparently not," I said, voice flat. She picked up the napkin like it was a dirty tissue. "Read it," then scoffed. "This is stupid," she muttered. "It's probably from someone at work. Maybe Derek. He thinks he's funny. Could be some joke he pulled at happy hour." "Derek," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. She waved her hand dismissively. "Yeah, he's always trying to get a rise out of people. Probably left it in there thinking it'd be funny." She dropped it back on the table like it was nothing. "Why would Derek leave a napkin in your jacket?" She paused, just for a second. Then, "I don't know, Jason. Why are you grilling me about a stupid napkin? I didn't put it there." "No one said you did," I replied. She rolled her eyes. "You're acting like a detective over a joke. God, you're unbelievable sometimes." Then she turned it on me. Just like that. "Maybe if you trusted me instead of going through jackets like some paranoid creep, we wouldn't be having this conversation." That hit harder than I expected. "You think I was snooping? I think you want there to be a problem. Like you're looking for something to be mad about. Is this about last week? Because I had a late meeting? The meeting. The one she'd been cagey about. Said she didn't want to talk about it because it was boring office stuff. I didn't say anything about last week, I said slowly. Why bring it up? She blinked, caught herself. Because you've been acting weird ever since. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. Leslie, just tell me the truth. I am telling you the truth, she said, her voice suddenly sharper. You're the one making this into something it's not. It's a stupid napkin, Jason. It doesn't mean anything. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something about her reaction didn't feel like honesty. Felt like panic wrapped in anger. Like she was trying to bury the truth before it had a chance to breathe. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about a napkin. This was about what she didn't want me to find. That night, the napkin sat on the kitchen counter like a guest we didn't invite, and neither of us touched it again. Leslie retreated early upstairs, claiming she had emails to catch up on. I stayed downstairs, nursing a beer on the couch, pretending the TV could distract me. But the quiet crept in, and once it did, it dragged everything else with it. I sat in that dim living room, staring at the glow of the screen, and started playing back moments like a mental slideshow. Little flashes I had ignored, now screaming for attention. Because that napkin, it wasn't just a note. It was a match tossed into a dry forest. I remembered the passwords. Leslie used to be open about everything, her phone, her laptop, our shared accounts. Then one day, things were reset, glitched, or security upgrades had been rolled out at work. One by one, the locks changed. Her phone needed a passcode now. Her laptop was always closed. I asked once and she'd said, "It's just policy. You know how work is these days." I had let it go, trusted her. Then there were the absences. She used to text me when she was working late. Now it was my phone died, or it was back-to-back meetings. Sometimes she came home flustered, like she was in the middle of a conversation she wasn't ready to end. Sometimes too calm, rehearsed, and laughter. That's what haunts me the most. One night, I remember hearing her laugh through the bathroom door. I'd been walking past on the way to the laundry when I heard her giggle, high, breathless, warm in a way that felt unfamiliar. It stopped the moment I touched the door handle. When I asked what was so funny, she said she was watching a TikTok. Her eyes didn't meet mine. The light from her phone screen was gone too fast. And then, the lingerie. I found it tucked in the back of her drawer. Something new. Dark red lace with tags still attached. Leslie had always kept things pretty simple. Flannel in winter, cotton in summer. Nothing fancy, nothing like that. And we hadn't exactly been romantic lately. I asked about it once, joking, "Who's this for? A secret admirer?" She smirked and said, "Just treating myself." But she never wore it for me. I should have known then. Even her scent changed. She'd started wearing a different perfume. Heavier, rich, the kind you don't wear for comfort, but for effect. I told her I liked her usual one, and she brushed it off, said it was a gift from a coworker. "I'm just trying it out," she'd said. But she kept using it. Daily. It all added up. But at the time, each moment felt like a standalone scene. Isolated, explainable, forgivable. Now, sitting on that couch with the napkin burning a hole in the back of my mind, I realized how perfectly the puzzle pieces fit. I'd been looking at them upside down, refusing to see the picture they made. She had lied. Not once. Not in one big moment. But in hundreds of tiny cuts, each designed to be too small to matter. And I had bled from all of them silently. I wanted to talk to her right then, to wake her up and force the truth out of her. But I knew how that would go. Tears, defensiveness, maybe even more blame tossed my way. So I stayed on the couch. I stared at the ceiling, and I started planning. Because this wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. And patterns don't break themselves. I didn't sleep that night. Even after the TV clicked off and the beer went warm in my hand, I just sat there, eyes wide open, mind spinning. The napkin, Leslie's reaction to it, had detonated something inside me. Suspicion had taken root, and now it was growing, thick and fast, like vines wrapping around my ribs. By morning, I wasn't Jason the husband. I was Jason the observer, the collector, The guy who stopped asking and started watching. She breezed through breakfast like nothing had happened. Kissed me on the cheek. Told me she'd be out late. Some corporate networking thing. The kind of vague event that didn't need a location or an end time. I nodded, let her go. Didn't argue. That was part of the plan now. The moment the door closed, I moved fast. There were things I hadn't touched in months. Digital corners of our life I never bothered checking. But now, everything was fair game. I scoured shared calendars, online orders, rideshare receipts. Most of it was clean. Too clean. Like it had been swept. But then I remembered the camera. We had a Ring doorbell installed last year, mainly for vacation season. But Leslie hated the sound of it chiming every time someone walked by. Too jumpy, she said. Let's just disable notifications unless we're out of town. So we did. But the system? Still ran in the background. Still captured motion. Still stored video if you knew where to look. I logged in. There wasn't much, just a few clips of squirrels or the occasional Amazon guy. But on Tuesday night, around 9:40 p.m., there it was. A car pulled up outside. Not an Uber. Not a delivery. Just a black sedan with tinted windows and custom rims I didn't recognize. The passenger door opened and Leslie stepped out. She laughed as she stood, head tilted back, hair brushing her shoulders, lips curled in a smile I hadn't seen in months. Then he got out. Tall. Lean. Black shirt, rolled sleeves, confident stance. He circled the car, came around to her side. She didn't step away. She waited. Like she knew what was coming. They hugged. Longer than a friend would. Then he kissed her. Not rushed. Not secretive. A full, familiar kiss. One hand on her waist, the other in her hair. She kissed him back, just as sure. I paused the clip. Sat there. Staring at my wife's face mid-kiss. That face I thought I knew. That smile I used to believe was mine. Then I pressed play again. She pulled back, laughing softly, and smoothed down her blouse like it was just another night. Then she walked up to her door. Alone. Calm. No hesitation. The car idled for a second, then drove off. The footage ended. 57 seconds. That's all it took. 57 seconds to rewrite everything I thought I understood about my life. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, letting the truth settle like ash. The kind of stillness that only comes after something inside you dies. Later, I replayed the video. Not because I wanted to punish myself, but because I had to be sure. It wasn't some mistaken identity. It wasn't some misread gesture. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This was proof. Leslie hadn't just betrayed me. She'd come back into her home with another man's kiss still on her lips. She had looked me in the eyes and asked me how my day was. And I had answered like a fool. The day I left didn't begin with a scream or a slammed door. There wasn't a dramatic fight, no luggage tossed into the yard, no neighbors peeking through curtains. It started the way all endings do, quietly. Leslie was gone before I woke up. Said she had a work retreat 2 days upstate. I didn't even ask where. I nodded when she kissed my cheek and mumbled something about packing light. I waited until the garage door rumbled shut behind her, then lay there in bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily overhead. My fingers traced the spot on the sheet where she had been minutes earlier, still warm. And I knew this would be the last morning we ever shared in this house. I didn't rush. I didn't cry. I moved with precision, as if I'd been rehearsing this moment for years. Maybe in some way I had. The suitcase I chose wasn't the big one we used for vacations. Just the medium-sized gray roller I took on short business trips. It was enough. Enough for someone who no longer felt tied to the life he had built. I packed slowly. Deliberately. Shirts. Jeans. The boots Leslie hated because they tracked mud. The leather jacket she never let me hang near her coats. The photo of my dad from the hallway that no one ever noticed but me. I left the rest. Her ring was next. I didn't even hesitate. Took it from the bedside drawer where I kept it while showering, placed it on the kitchen table right next to the napkin she'd never moved. I positioned them side by side like pieces of a story only we knew. That napkin had started it. The ring ended it. Then I logged into the joint account and transferred out my share. Not out of spite. Just self-preservation. I wasn't leaving her ruined. I was just making sure I wasn't. My phone buzzed. A message from my buddy Sean, just 3 words, "You good, man?" I stared at it. Typed and deleted a dozen replies. Finally, I wrote, "I'm out. Montana." He replied instantly, "You serious?" I turned the phone off. I booked the bus online. No flights. No rentals. No big gestures. Just a seat on a long-haul Greyhound to a quiet town in Montana where no one knew me. A place I remembered from a camping trip years ago, trees, cold air, space. When the time came to leave, I didn't take one last look at the house. I didn't scan the walls for pictures or gather souvenirs. I didn't stand in the hallway and breathe in her perfume. I just walked out. There was a strange kind of calm in the motion. Like walking away from an accident you survived. Still shaking but alive. At the station, I took a photo. Just a quick snap on my phone. Not to send. Not to share. Just to remember. My face in the terminal glass, bags at my feet. No tears. Just a man who had finally stopped waiting for answers. I boarded the bus and watched the town shrink in the window behind me. There was no letter. No voicemail. No dramatic goodbye. Because I didn't want to hear her say sorry. I didn't want to hear her say nothing happened or it didn't mean anything or it was just a mistake. She knew what she did. And now she'd wake up in that house alone. She'd see the ring. The napkin. The empty drawers. The silence. And she'd know exactly what it all meant. This wasn't a storm. This was the stillness after. And I was done waiting for thunder. The silence hit first. I expected anger, fireworks, a string of desperate messages as soon as Leslie realized I was gone. But the first day passed with nothing. Then the second. It wasn't until the third that the dam finally broke. My phone, now powered back on and sitting on the windowsill of the rented cabin, lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. All from her. The first few messages were sharp, accusatory. Where the hell are you, Jason? You think ghosting me fixes anything? This is immature. We're adults. Talk to me. Then the tone shifted. I'm sorry. Please, can we talk? I don't know what you think you saw, but you're wrong. Nothing happened. It wasn't what it looked like. I swear. Eventually came the pleading. Jason, I'm losing it. I need you. Please call me. I'll explain everything. I'll do anything. Don't shut me out like this. She didn't realize it was already too late. This wasn't a punishment. It wasn't even revenge. It was release. Her stories came fast after that. She spun a new version every other day. One where the man in the footage was just a friend or an old college classmate or someone going through a breakup she was comforting. Another where she admitted to a kiss but insisted it meant nothing, that it was a moment of weakness. One message went as far as to blame me. You've been so distant lately. You shut me out, Jason. I was lonely. That was the final straw. I turned the phone face down and left it there for hours. I didn't want her to hurt, but I also didn't want to be her lifeline anymore. She hadn't just broken a promise, she'd rewritten our history without telling me. I started keeping a journal. Something I hadn't done since I was a teenager. But it helped, especially on the colder nights when the wind off the trees howled and the silence got too loud. I wrote everything about the napkin, the footage, the way her perfume lingered in the bedroom after she left. I wrote about the way it all felt, not like a crash, but like erosion. Slow, invisible. Until one day the ground beneath you gives out and you're already falling. A week later, she found me. I don't know how. Maybe through a shared bank notification. Maybe she asked one of my friends. Maybe she just got lucky. All I know is one morning, as I was stacking firewood out front, I looked up and there she was. Leslie. Standing at the edge of the driveway like she wasn't sure whether to step forward or turn around and disappear. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of her decisions had finally settled on her shoulders. She wore a long coat, no makeup, hair pulled back. Her eyes scanned the cabin, the woods, the dog that sat by my side, new, loyal, quiet. I didn't move. She didn't knock. She just stood there, hoping, I think, for some sign I was still hers. I stayed in place. Watching. Waiting. Saying nothing. She stood there for maybe 5 minutes. Then she turned, got back in her car, and drove away. I listened to the crunch of tires on gravel until it faded completely. That was the last time I saw her. No fireworks. No screaming match. No tears on either side. Just two people standing on opposite sides of a line that could no longer be crossed. I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel hate. What I felt was confirmation. She had played with something sacred and lost. And there was no coming back from that. 8 months. That's how long it's been since I walked away. Montana did what time alone never could. It slowed the world down enough for me to hear myself think again. The cabin I found was modest, tucked between a dense grove of pine and a stream that froze over in the winter. No traffic. No neighbors. Just me and a mutt I named Bear. Found him shivering near the woodshed one morning and couldn't turn him away. He's been with me ever since. I didn't try to reinvent myself, not really. I kept to the basics. Chopping wood. Selling furniture. I started building from scratch, tables, shelves, chairs, all simple, clean. There's something satisfying about making something that doesn't lie to you. I didn't date. I didn't swipe. I didn't flirt with the woman at the market who asked if I was hiding from something. I just let the quiet do its work. The scars Leslie left didn't vanish, but they stopped bleeding. She became a name I once spoke every day and now haven't said aloud in months. When I think of her, I don't feel rage. I don't feel sadness either. Just a muted curiosity, like remembering a song you used to love and realizing you no longer know the lyrics. I didn't set out to heal, but I did. Not with revenge, not with rebound flings or long rants to friends. Just peace. Earned the slow way. It was spring again when I saw her. I had driven into Salt Lake City for lumber, cheaper than ordering local, and stopped at a roadside cafe off the highway. It was late morning, the kind of day where the sun breaks just right through the windshield, and for a moment you forget there's anything left to hurt. She was already inside when I walked in. Sitting near the window, sipping something dark, her phone clutched like it held her together. She looked older, not aged, just worn. Her eyes darted around the room like she was expecting someone. When I reached the counter, I ordered 2 coffees and pointed to her. "Put hers on mine," I told the barista. He nodded. I didn't look back at her. Didn't want to. I took my seat in the far corner, where I could watch without being seen. When her bill came, the barista gestured toward me. She turned. Our eyes met. No words, no wave, just recognition. I stood, coffee in hand, and walked out. I didn't hear her follow. That was the final chapter. No speech, no closure talk, just silence. And in that silence, I found something better than justice. I found peace. Because when I left her that day, again, I wasn't running. I was done. And for the first time in a long, long time, I had nothing left to prove.